straight to a Fox News alert. At least 85 people were hurt in the latest Iranian ballistic missile attack. This in Tel Aviv and beyond, including a direct hit on a hospital.
How's nobody dead? Like, I'm sorry, maybe this is like a bad way of saying this, but how's nobody dead whenever you hit somebody with a ballistic missile? The sirens? I guess so, but like, so seriously though, okay, they were warned, okay.
In southern Israel, young children are among the wounded in the attack.
Yep.
And earlier, our foreign correspondent Greg Palcott capturing footage of Israeli air defenses trying to stop the incoming fire.
Yep.
They're not taking a break. We've been listening to the anti-missile defense.
That's a big fucking missile. Holy shit. Is that the new one Iran made?
There's a couple right there. It's a wake-up call for this country, for the city, that this war between...
That's the sun? Oh, wow. That is really big. Jesus.
Between Iran and Israel is still on.
And Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is promising to, quote, exact the full price from the tyrants in Tehran. Mike Tobin is live in Israel at the scene of one of those attacks. Good morning, Mike.
Yeah.
Good morning, Griff. Yeah, this is the scene where one of the missiles got through the air defenses and struck in the middle of Ramat Gan. That's a neighborhood here in Tel Aviv. As I step out of the way, I can tell you it's kind of a modernized both residential and business area. And what you're looking at now is pretty much the center of the impact. I'm told by Magen David Adom EMT that one of the missiles did make a direct hit on a building here. And what you're looking at is a lot of...
Isn't that kind of an L missile, though? I mean, like, if you make a direct hit and most of the windows aren't even broken, like, what is it filled with? Popcorn?
Damage from the shrapnel
shockwave,
and the force of the blast as it went through this modernized neighborhood. Remarkably, you talk about 35 people who were injured. Those injuries are mostly minor.
Yeah, it seems like, by the way, my understanding of this is that the civilian buildings that were damaged as a result of the shockwave. It seemed, and Iran claims, that it was not targeting a civilian building, and instead it was targeting a nearby military building. They claim that. That's what they said.
6 serious injuries, and it's quite dramatic, the fact that there aren't more casualties because of these massive missiles that are crashing down, and that's largely because Israelis are respecting the warnings and heading to the bomb shelters. Now, there was also a missile that hit in the area of Tel Aviv in a town called, or a neighborhood, I should say, called Holon. That is an older residential area, and again, you have dramatically minimized casualties given the force of the impact of that missile that made it through the defenses. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, as you mentioned, got to social media, and he said that the tyrants in Iran, that Israel will exact the full price from the tyrants in Iran. The defense minister, Yisrael Katz, made this statement that the attacks or the air campaign in Iran will only intensify. Had a conversation with an IDF spokesman this morning, pressed him on what that means, and he says Israel has been picking targets in Iran for decades.
Damn.
Well, this is an ongoing operation, and our goals are very clear: to remove these existential threats from the civilian of Israel. And we're seeing this is a preview. This morning, we saw a preview of what could happen if we let Iran keep going this way. And their goal was to have thousands and thousands of these ballistic missiles on Israeli civilians, and on top of that, nuclear weapons.
Yeah, I would assume that Iran is trying to build a bunch of... I mean, they only say every single day, basically, that they want to destroy Israel, right? I mean, this is like... I feel like that's kind of... You know how, like, Trump runs on, like, immigration? I feel like that's kind of like their version of immigration. They're talking about that a lot.
Now, to the south of here is the town of Beersheba. In Beersheba is the Soroka Hospital. That hospital took a direct hit from an Iranian...
Should we trust them, whether they were actually intentionally trying to hit a military building? I don't know whether you should or not. It's very hard to say. I mean, in general, I wouldn't trust them, but they haven't come out and... None of the other attacks that they've done, I don't remember them coming out and saying that they didn't mean to hit any civilian targets. So the fact that they said it with this one seems like, oh, maybe that's true, but I don't know. It's impossible. That's the thing with people that are liars, right? You never know when they're telling the truth. Does it really matter? Yeah, I think it absolutely matters. Absolutely, I think it does. So, like, if you're a country and you're trying to bomb a hospital, that's very different than trying to bomb a military base near a hospital. Yeah, that's a completely different universe in my mind. Yeah, absolutely. Like, killing people as a goal versus killing people as collateral damage is what separates a war from terrorism. It's absolutely different. And by the way, it's different even here if you kill somebody in the U.S. It's the difference between murder and manslaughter. So, yes, absolutely it matters. It matters on every single logical and ethical apparatus that exists.
Missile
Intent
overnight.
always matters.
A
Yeah,
few
it always
reasons that the
matters.
casualties were minimized there.
So war is manslaughter? Yeah, I guess in that metaphor, yes. I know you're trying to oversimplify my words to make it sound like I'm making war sound like it's not a big deal. And you're trying to, like, reframe what I'm saying in a way that's disingenuous. I'm not afraid of some bad clip coming out of me saying something in the wrong way, because the only thing I'm going to do is farm a bunch of retards like you tomorrow on Twitter for a new video about it. Everybody knows that's not what I mean, and anybody who believes that it is are retards that are not really worth my attention. So go ahead.
The Soroka Hospital is within rocket range of the Gaza Strip. That means
You
for
know
more
exactly
than
what
a
I'm trying to
decade
say.
now, they have been fortifying and reinforcing that hospital to take rocket strikes.
Being
that
disingenuous,
minimize the
dishonest,
damage.
yes.
And also, just by chance last night, the decision was made to draw down the patients and staff in the old surgical building that was hit. So again, casualties are minimal. Now, Israeli fighter jets were active in the skies over Iran overnight. They hit a weapons production facility, according to the IDF, in the area of Natanz. Also, an old reactor that was inactive, a heavy water reactor in the town of Arak, not to be confused with Iraq, the country, A-R-A-K. Griff, back to you.
Hey, Mike, just real quick. These are not considered dumb bombs. They're not these ballistic missiles that just go in the vicinity. They seem to have targets, which makes one believe they were targeting a hospital.
They said they weren't, but yeah,
Well,
I mean,
according
damage
to the
hospital.
Iranian news agencies, what they were targeting was an Israeli intelligence and military base that was very near the hospital. But yeah, when you say missile, that means something you can aim. A rocket is usually, a flying pipe bomb.
Right.
Got it.
Thank you so much.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian.
Okay, yeah, there we go. All right, great. A flying pipe bomb.
Fox News alert, #1 story in the world right now. Israel releasing footage of an airstrike on an Iranian heavy water reactor in Arak, A-R-A-K. The latest attack on Iran's nuclear program, sending massive plumes of smoke into the air.
And smoke seen over southern Israel after Iran carried out a direct strike on a hospital. A series of strikes by Tehran, injuring at least 89 people in and around Tel Aviv.
So let's go right to Mike Tobin. He is live in Israel at the scene of one of those Iranian strikes. Mike?
Exactly, Ainsley. This is Ramat Gan, where the cleanup is underway right now.
So
Ramat Gan is on the east side of Tel Aviv. And as I step out of the shot, I can give you an idea of just how powerful the warhead was on that missile as it came through. The damage here stretches over several blocks. You've got a lot of apartment buildings, businesses, retail that are in here. The balconies are destroyed. Windows are broken out for blocks around the impact zone. And one of the things you might see, a lot of the trash is being pushed out of the high rise right now, so you might see some debris coming down. Also, Holon on the south side of Tel Aviv. That's an older residential area. That took a direct hit. And a hospital called Soroka in the southern part of Israel was hit. When you talk about the dozens of people who were injured, most of those injuries are light. And spoke with a paramedic out here this morning that says the reason you don't have more serious injuries is simply because the Israeli people are listening to those sirens.
Yeah, they're hiding.
The population is highly committed to the security and safety here, and we can see that even from rockets like this one, very little or few casualties because people are turning to the shelters and staying safe when the alarm sounds.
Following the ballistic missile attack, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu took to X and posted, we, meaning Israel, will exact a price from the tyrants in Iran. What did he mean by that? Israeli fighter jets were active over Iran today.
So they just immediately bombed the ship.
Nuclear weapons development facility in the town of Natanz, but also hit an inactive heavy water reactor in the town of Arak. So it's still a very active scene over Iran, and the Israelis say they have air superiority, so the Israeli fighter jets can pretty much...
Seems like that's true, by the way.
pick off targets at will. Guys, back to you.
You know, Mike, we're just talking. What if people have a job? Like if Brian were doing radio, would you be able to do that in one of the bunkers? Because you're interrupted in the middle of your day, and right now it's constant.
Well, you often see guys who will pick up and move to the bunkers in the middle of a live broadcast, and you see that with the local television.
Yeah, I feel like there's kind of an understanding. It's like, oh, guys, I just got an alert. It said I'm going to die if I don't go underneath the bunker. I'm going to have to go do that. And everybody's like, oh, okay. Yeah, I get it. That makes sense. Understandable.
As well. As far as people working here in this business
I would believe that.
/ residential area, the one thing we see them bringing out, or two things we see them bringing out, is they're allowed one at a time back into their offices and apartment buildings, or their briefcases and the CPUs from their personal computers.
So life still goes on.
Mike, you were showing us in the building behind you and talking about specifically the warhead and the damage that it did. We've seen as each day goes by, it seems like the Iranians have fired fewer missiles, but are they using stronger warheads? Is that sort of
I'm curious about that
a
too.
thing that's happening there?
Well, I think in this stage of the conflict, ever since Operation Rising Lion started, they went into their arsenal and they got things like their Fajr rockets, which are considerably more powerful than the Katyusha rockets that we saw come out of South Lebanon, and dramatically more powerful than the Qassam rockets, which are made in machine shops in the Gaza Strip.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
I think it says everything about Israel and about Iran. Israel is fighting to remove the nuclear and missile threat aimed at our annihilation. We're targeting.
Yeah, I've repeated this multiple times, but I'll say it again. This is the one part of alignment that I think that we have with Israel, is that I think that it's in our best interest to get rid of Iran's nuclear capabilities. Outside of that, I see no business dealing with Iran. Like, I don't want to start a war with them. I don't want to bomb them. I don't want to fucking give Israel bombs to bomb them. I don't want to I don't want to participate in regime change. I don't want to have anything to do with this shit other than just get rid of the nukes and then I'm done. That's it. I'm out. Yep, we did our part and then we are done. You're fucking retard. Again, guys, there are people, there are going to be disagreeers. If you want to have a disagreement, that's fine, but you have to bring up an argument. An insult or condescension will just immediately get you banned. An instant ban. I'm not even going to wait. I don't want to hear why. There's just no reason to do that. Yesterday, we were supporting bombing. I have never supported bombing Iran in general. I've never supported that. I've never said that. I have had the same viewpoint ever since the beginning, that the nuclear weapons are an existential threat and they need to be solved. Everything else besides that, I don't care about. That is between Israel and Iran. Only the nuclear facilities. That's it. They don't have nukes. If they did, Israel wouldn't have attacked. This conflict is very scary to me. It's very scary because the types of arguments and the things that people say are so stupid that it really makes me worry. It does. I'm really worried. I didn't realize people were I thought people were stupid. But this is a whole different level. Oh my God. Half the people here are stupider than the average person. No, everybody in my chat is smart, and the people that are disagreeing are random chatters from other places. None of my viewers are stupid. All my viewers are smart. Everybody else's viewers are stupid, except for mine.
Military sites.
And also viewers of friends of mine, too. They're also smart.
We're targeting nuclear sites. We're targeting missile sites. They're targeting a hospital. In this hospital, there are patients who are immobile. They can't even move.
I mean, Hamas said the same thing about Israel whenever Israel was bombing Palestine. And then, you know, Israel was like, yeah, but they have stuff in the hospital or near the hospital. And so it just happened. Like, I don't think there's really, I don't really think that they have like the moral high ground with this. I think the number of hospitals that Israel has bombed, correct me if I'm wrong, is 36. That's the number, right? 36.
Right next to it is a children's ward, a baby's ward, infants. They target it.
It's a lot.
Fox News alert now. There you saw it moments ago. The Prime Minister Netanyahu visiting the site of a bombed-out hospital, warning Iran's supreme leader, you cannot continue to exist. Wow. After overnight missile strikes killed innocent civilians and those wounded, or over 80. Our next guest knows all about the Mideast war on terror. Retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel Ken Tobo joins us. He led 6 combat tours in Iraq and Afghanistan and joins us now. Your reaction to what the Prime Minister just said, Ken, about, you know what, this guy can't continue to exist.
Yeah, I think this is a pretty good example of the fact that the Iranians use basically indiscriminate weapons, both missiles, terrorism, and other effects that are.
Yeah, Iranians are fucking terrorists. I mean, the government is fucking, they're funding terrorists. I mean, like, it's a terrorist government. I mean, like, what the fuck do you say?
Indiscriminate weapons, both missiles, terrorism, and other effects that are generally directed against civilian populations and frankly, targets that Western militaries would not target. And I think what you see with the Israeli approach is a very precise campaign and to try and limit collateral damage, but to have effect on the nuclear program.
So, General, when people say, this is not our fight, America doesn't have a fight with Iran, this is Israel's problem, do you feel differently?
That's the way I feel.
Yeah, I'm from that generation that has watched Iranians fight against U.S. and U.S. interests really since 1979 when they took our embassy. They've bombed embassies, Khobar towers, through Lebanese Hezbollah, one of their terrorist groups that they sponsor and fund. They've executed attacks on Americans really worldwide. And of course, during the Iraq War, they were a significant threat to us on the ground, and through their explosively formed penetrators that they were providing to the Shia militias, were killing Americans in large numbers.
You shouldn't have been there. In my opinion, shouldn't have been there in the first place. Yeah, shouldn't have been there. Like, again, the only issue that I have is the nukes. Yep, we never needed to be there. I mean, what is this? I mean, basically, like, and by the way, Iran government is bad. Like, they're bad. Like, if I could push a button and it would replace them with a better government, I think everybody would push that button, right? And they're crazy. They do support terrorists. That's true. But, like, does this warrant us going over there and, you know, like, spending lives and trillions of dollars? I don't think so. I just don't think so.
You said, you know, we dropped the bunker busters. They'll do the job in Fordo. Yeah. The reaction.
Let the people revolt
instead. If you were on the ground in Iraq, in Syria, in Bahrain, our base in Bahrain, or Qatar, where do you think we'd be most vulnerable if they wanted to react? Should it be clear?
Don't you think you'd say that to families of fallen soldiers, though? Whether or not we should have been there doesn't really matter if U.S. citizens get murdered? Okay, so then why would you? Absolutely, you have to. Like, you're making an emotional appeal. Wow, well, you wouldn't say that to somebody who had a dead kid. There's a reason why people who are victims of crimes don't get to sit on the jury. It's because they're not making an active decision, or they're not making an unbiased decision. Yes, obviously they're going to feel differently because they were personally affected by it. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't make a decision that way. That's not on Zach. That's on the government. Yeah, exactly. Like, you can't let emotions make decisions for you. If you do, you're going to make bad decisions. The second we start bombing Iran, they're going to attack our bases. There's no we'll only go this far option in the conflict. We've already evacuated the bases. We already evacuated a tremendous amount of the bases and the embassies and all that.
That we dropped the bunker busters on Fordo.
I am quite sure that our military commanders globally are on alert and preparing the capability to defend our troops. I think when you look at the Middle East, the Iranian capability is largely ballistic missiles, short, medium, and long range. And so I am sure that all those bases are worried about their air defenses and paying close attention to the news.
It's amazing. Their axis of resistance has been very quiet because they know the people that have been supplying them are getting their head kicked in. This is a big day, the 73rd anniversary, the birthday of the Green Beret. What is the Green Beret? People like you, how have you contributed to our armed forces?
I thought they had that for way longer.
The Green Berets, the U.S. Army Special Forces, are really a unique portion of our military capability, really the only organization in the U.S. military that's solely focused on working with indigenous partners, such as resistance elements and other partners, primarily to overthrow occupying powers or enemy adversary regimes. So kind of think
Rambo?
World War II, think folks parachuting into France to help the French resistance overthrow the Nazi regime. And that is the prime focus of Green Berets. Obviously, we do other things when called to, like help governments fight their own internal stability problems. But that was the reason for the creation of the Green Berets in 1952.
Now needed more than ever.
Yeah, absolutely. When you look at the world situation, we're in a competition with adversaries, China, Russia, North Korea, Iran, and a lot of that competition is what we call the gray zone. It's below the threshold of conventional war. It's about creating influence with partners, foreign partners and allies.
You better watch, General. If you stay in such great shape, they're going to bring you right back in. Lieutenant General Ken Tovo, happy birthday to you, Green Beret. Thanks for all you do, and thanks for your expertise here.
And I just close if I could. Green Berets are an important part of national capability, and Green Beret Foundation exists to support our Green Berets.
And so go to the foundation to support
GreenBeretFoundation.org.
So especially on the birthday. General, thanks so much.
Thanks.
I'm Steve Doocy.
He does look kind of like Tony Hawk. You're right about that. Genuine question. There might be a chance that Iran doesn't actually have the nukes, and this is similar to Iraq. Do I think that they don't have the nukes? I think that Iran is trying to develop nuclear weapons. I do. I think that they are trying to develop them. Now, there is a possibility that maybe they haven't developed them yet. But if you ask me the question, do I think they are trying to develop them and they are actively trying to develop them? The answer to that, in my mind, is absolutely they are. And so you're kind of asking two different things. Do they have a nuke at this exact second? Maybe, maybe not. Probably not. I wouldn't bet on them having it. But there's also a high probability that they're trying to make one. And so that's at least where that's where I'm coming from. That's what I think. And so, yeah, of course they are. They lie about everything. Yeah, of course. Hassan said they should. I mean, if you were Iran and you were a psycho, fucking religious zealot, people don't die, they become martyrs, like totalitarian government, wouldn't you want to build a nuclear weapon? Because if I was them, I would too. Sure. I can easily see why they'd do it. And absolutely, it doesn't mean that's like, I mean, just because I say that doesn't mean I think it's a good idea. But of course I can understand why it's happening. Duh, of course. Absolutely. So yeah, and nukes have protected North Korea for 70 years. Being a martyr means you died, though. Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the problem. And so it's that simple. Yet they have signed NPT and they have IAEA inspections. Netanyahu said for 30 years they're weeks away from nukes. It's all fear-mongering Zionist lies. Again, that's already been debunked multiple times, and it's already been addressed multiple times. You can just go back in the VOD for the last hour that this was also brought up by another moron, and you'll hear the answer to that. Just know that it's a dumb argument. It's a stupid argument. It doesn't make sense. Zionist lies. Yeah, it's crazy, and it's just a retard argument. It's not worth taking seriously. As I'm promoting the Israel agenda? No, it's not the Israel agenda. It's the American agenda. I know this might sound crazy, but just because in one circumstance, because your interests align with Israel, that does not mean that you are a puppet for Israel. It's a stupid binary way of thinking that doesn't help anybody. So yeah,